Swami, all yours. Okay, just before I hand over, when we talk about industries, there are a lot of different, this is a slide you will see from the IoT forum. The slides in green are viable commercially. The slides in yellow need help. The slides in red depends. Swami.
Thank you very much, Arvind. So he's already given me a clock here. So I've got very, very little time to talk to you, but sorry, yeah, is it better? Okay. Thanks. I am Swaminathan. I go by Swami. I come from an organization called Founding Fuel. We are a media and a learning platform. Oh, sorry. Is it better now? Okay. And we aim to create the new playbook for entrepreneurship in India. So we track some of the interesting developments that's happening in India through technological disruptions, through changes that's happening in the social sector and all of that, and put this out for entrepreneurs to look at opportunities that they can capture in the Indian ecosystem. So today I'm going to talk to you about how IoT has actually been adopted in the Indian environment. And this is a very comprehensive case. It's gone through from conception to design to actual acceptance and being field tested. It's been in the market for about 8 to 10 months. And as I go through, you'll probably understand the enormity of this implementation and what it means for all of you here as entrepreneurs, okay? So I'm just giving you a quick overview of the few things that the environment in which this implementation has been done. So the purpose in which this industry operates is in building infrastructure, right? And the type of location that this operates in is in remote locations. Because they're building infrastructure, roads, they're digging up stuff, and so on. And the type of operation that it is involved in is very, very crucial. It's critical because they are working on certain time-specified projects, and they have to deliver to that particular time, so they cannot afford downtime. And each one of these equipments that's involved in this is upwards of 25 lakhs. So what am I really talking about? I'm talking about a large earth-moving equipment company in India, and that is JCB. JCB, as you know, is a very large earth-moving equipment company in the world, and India is one of the largest markets, right? So what I'm going to talk about is how did JCB go about implementing an IoT solution that has been developed and delivered in India, okay? And there are lots of interesting learnings for each one of you to take up and see you as entrepreneurs, what can you learn out of this, and also look at what opportunities come up when you have implementations like this that you can build on top of. Okay, so the first thing that is important for all of us to understand is even before they started talking about IoT, what really was front and central was to really understand that there are different stakeholders in this entire product that they are developing, right? So it's a very complex situation in which the product is in remote locations. There are operators, there are people who own these equipments, there are dealers who sell these equipments, and of course there is JCB themselves who actually monitor and look at what they can do from a supply chain planning and spare parts and all of that stuff. So the first important thing that they did, and which is an extremely important step, is to first map out who are the stakeholders for which this solution is being developed. That's a very, very crucial step before you jump into talking about technology, right? So as you go through the list, there are 4 basic stakeholders that they identified, and each one of them had different needs. The operator is the person who's actually sitting on the JCB. He's the one who's looking at how is my equipment performing. The owner is not necessarily in the same location. The owner is sitting probably hundreds of miles away, and he is looking at, how is this equipment operating? Are there any critical issues with that equipment? Right? Is there security of this equipment? Is it being used in the location it is supposed to be used in? Is it being used for the same amount of time that they contracted for? A lot of those issues that look at operations and also the maintenance of that equipment, and also an unstated need, but was something that really came out is, I've spent 25-30 lakhs on this equipment. Is this secure? Is this equipment secure, or is it being taken away and I probably can't trace it because it's not in front of my eyes? That's a very important insight that they got when they were looking at building the solution. The dealers, of course, were looking at providing an extensive customer service. As you know, in these businesses, the service is not done in the dealership. The service is done in the premises where the equipment is kept, because you can't bring the equipment and get it serviced and put it back like your motor car, right? So for the dealer, it's an extremely important piece of information to know when this equipment is ready for service. So that was an extremely important insight. So when you look at all the questions that are getting answered, the shape of the solution starts coming up, right? So it wasn't only just to start by saying, you know, I got to put in an IoT and I've got to implement something here. You have to look at what's in it for the stakeholders. So when you take those inputs, you come up with a lot of specific needs that you need to start putting into the entire solution. So when you look at the operators want SMS alerts, and many of them are in regional, they don't understand English, so the SMS has to be tailored in regional languages. So you build out the entire solution based on the regional languages. The owners also need the data, looking at things like performance alerts, maintenance alerts, critical safety alerts, and so on, and geofencing and time. Very, very important requirement that came out. So build a solution around that. Again, using SMS, but for these folks who are not necessarily in remote locations, access through mobile app as well as through the web. For the dealers, they wanted to provide on-site service, vehicle history, the service alerts, specific targeted campaigns as to which equipment should I be targeting for the next month's service and so on, and helping the owners of these equipment in case there is some critical alerts. So if the owner is not really looking at the fact that the fuel is low, they could call them up and say, hey, I just got an alert that your vehicle's fuel is running low, please go take a look at it. And the OEMs obviously wanted to see, get more information on how this whole service is being handled, look at, the parts and look at the linking that with the supply chain, because as you know, any downtime in non-availability of spare parts is a big issue for the owners, right? So how do I really integrate all of this and make sure that the spare part is available? Now, this really prompted, when you look at all of these requirements, it obviously calls for a solution that uses an IoT as a basis for the solution. So that's really, and all of this took a fair bit of time. So even though some of it was very obvious that yes, we should be doing it, but when you go through the process of understanding the stakeholder needs, you get a far better understanding of how the solution needs to be built out. So I'm just going to rush through this because it's very, for a bunch of people here who are technically minded. See, there is an onboard unit that gets built into every one of those JCB earth movers, and there are specific models where it gets built. It's not on all the models. And it has got a GPS chip in it, and it's also got a telecom connectivity. And as the solution was designed for very remote operation, it was built for 2G mobile systems. So it wasn't on any of the custom mobile custom IoT networks, but it was built for GSM. And what we hear is that about 97% of their equipment show up on the network every month. So there's only about a small percentage of equipments that don't show up even while using a GSM network. And then the IoT platform was built on the cloud, and that was something that was connecting with the telephony networks to get all the data. And the OEMs were feeding in supply chain and other manufacturing related information into the platform, which the operations staff of the JCB team could look at and monitor that, and that would also go to the users and the dealers and all of them. Now, what really were the adoption best practices? I've rushed through this because I can see Arvind is already anxious. So I just wanted to touch upon the 4 things that really mattered here. One was the solution was built outside in. It was not just about what JCB wanted to put out there. It's about working with all the stakeholders and benefit all in the value chain. Make it relevant for India, consider all the conditions that were there, reduce the price of building this in India, and it was 1/5 of what it would have been if it had been anywhere else in the world. And the whole solution was built based on partnerships. So Wipro Technologies built a lot of the platforms, including the one that was embedded in the chip. They worked with vendors like Pricall, they worked with Vodafone, they worked with Google for the map integration and all of that. and also increase the coverage base. So about 25,000 equipment today are using this on a daily basis. This solution is available on 25,000 equipments. So that is the case study in brief. Thank you very much, and I'll be able to answer questions later on.
Thank you. Perfect. You have stick to time.